Thank you for joining the Center for Urban Renewal and Education as we release our annual report, The Impact of Abortion on the Black Community. Our newest is up on our website, curepolicy.org. I'm Star Parker, and I'm joined today, to my excitement, with some friends who are also in this space trying to do all we can to end abortion, to do as what one of the organizations that works in pro-life says, to make abortion not only illegal, but to make it unthinkable. And one of the reasons that we're excited about releasing this report this year is because of what is happening at the Supreme Court as they are deliberating on whether we should go into the future killing our offspring. This report delves deeply into the latest tactics of the abortion industry to especially target African Americans. Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion providers, has recently acknowledged and has sought to distance itself from its racist founder, Margaret Sanger. You can Google Margaret Sanger and find out just how deep that racist eugenicist woman was in trying to exterminate what she called human weed. Margaret Sanger, even though they are trying to distance themselves from her history, Planned Parenthood is still furthering her mission. It is their intention as an organization to keep promoting abortion in our most vulnerable and minority communities. They're building mega clinics. They're promoting abortion pill in these communities. Even as they have exploited the pandemic to expand abortion. They're making chemical abortion more widely available, and they're putting them on college campuses and telemedicine and through the mail. This is insidious of the Planned Parenthood movement. This is insidious of Margaret Sanger. We have, as the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, shined a spotlight on abortion for year after year after year, making the case that it may be legal, but it's unlawful in the eyes of God. And when you hear from some that have joined me today to see just how deep this impact has been on those that are in our most vulnerable communities, those that after Dr. King's death, 5 years after Dr. King's death, Roe v. Wade was national law, and it had a tremendous impact on the communities that were most vulnerable, the communities that he cared most about, to see if they can move into the freedom of this great country. What we have instead is a collapse of marriage. What we have instead is what this movement has done is declared that women cannot control their sexual impulses. So beyond even the medical, the mental, the moral implications of abortion, what we're seeing now is it feeding into a narrative of victimhood, and as a result, it has totally devastated many of our most distressed zip codes. So you will find most of this information in the impact of abortion on the Black community, an annual report that CURE puts out. It's available right now on our website, curepolicy.org. So joining me to express more intention on why it is so important that we as a country move beyond abortion is, first up, Ryan Bomberger. Dear friend, and also the head of the Radiance Foundation. Ryan Bomberger is an Emmy Award-winning creative professional. He founded the Radiance Foundation alongside his wife, Bethany. He is a broadcast media designer, producer, columnist, international speaker, and author of a powerful book, Not Equal: Civil Rights Gone Wrong. His pro-life message resonates loudly as an adopted son whose biological mother was raped, yet courageously gave him a chance to live through the beautiful gift of adoption. And I hope he'll have time to share his story and as well what his insight is into this horrible crime against humanity that we have allowed to go on in our country for the last 49 years and must stop now. Ryan?
Thank you, Star. It's an honor to be here with CURE and among passionate advocates for life. I'm in good company right here. Many say that I should have been aborted. I was conceived in rape, but I was adopted in love. I grew up in a truly diverse family of 15, where 10 of us were adopted, many of us rescued from the violence of abortion. We're white, Black, mixed, Native American, Vietnamese, able, disabled family. Despite the horrific circumstances most of us came from, none of us would have been better off dead. We were all better off loved. I'm the 1% that's used to justify 100% of abortions. But the circumstances of our conception don't change the condition of our worth. My birth mom's courageous decision will continue to unleash beautiful reverberations for generations. Today, I'm also the father of 4 kiddos, 2 of whom were also adopted. It's why I fight for the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, and the most discarded. No group of humans is harder hit by the social injustice of abortion than Black lives. According to the CDC, abortion rates among Black women is 3.6 times higher than the majority population. Despite people of my complexion comprising about 13% of the population, 38.4% of all abortions are committed on Black lives, the largest percentage of all racial and ethnic groups. Roe is constantly heralded by the left as empowering women, but exploitation is not empowerment. Overturning Roe, or as I like to say, equalizing all humans, is the civil rights fight of our day. Pro-abortion activists criticizing the passage of pro-life legislation, laws that recognize the humanity and inherent worth of an entire group of people, is like segregationists lamenting civil rights bills. In 2018, for every 1,000 Black babies born alive, there were 1,226 aborted in the borough of Manhattan. This is where Planned Parenthood is headquartered, a ratio 4 times higher than whites and over 2 times higher than Hispanics. Yet pro-abortion activist groups like Guttmacher argue that there is, quote, a lack of access among Black and brown people. How many more Black lives should be aborted? There's no lack of access. There's obviously abundant access to the violence that solves no social issue, gives no one equality, and ushers more deaths into communities already disproportionately plagued by violence. Planned Parenthood is the leading killer of Black lives, taking an estimated 360 lives every single day. Yet now they claim to be an anti-racist organization. Shows what a fraud the anti-racist movement is. In the last several years, Planned Parenthood has launched a PR stunt by semi-separating from their racist eugenicist founder, Margaret Sanger. They removed her name from several of their abortion facilities, but changing your name does not change your DNA. We live in a society where systemic racism is blamed for every negative racial disparity, yet pro-abortion activists pretend that racism doesn't exist in the one industry that has killed millions of Black lives for a living. Systemic racism, by the way, is a government-funded entity, like Planned Parenthood, that disproportionately kills Black lives. The only way to stop this destruction of beautiful possibility is to abort Roe. And we need to act with the fierce urgency of now to end this violence. The Democrat Party, once the party of slavery, the KKK, Jim Crow, and separate and unequal, is now the party of limitless abortion. Fannie Lou Hamer called abortion genocide. Yes, Hamer was unapologetically pro-life, pro-adoption, and anti-Planned Parenthood. You want to talk voting rights, President Biden? Killing voters before they're born is the ultimate act of voter suppression. There are too many aborted, and one is too many.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have joining us as well dear friend Marjorie Dannenfelser. Marjorie Dannenfelser is also the president of Susan B. Anthony List, a national pro-life organization. Under her leadership, SBA List and its super PAC, Women Speak Out, contacted more than 8 million pro-life voters through door-to-door canvassing, voter mail, and digital communications. Therefore, in 2020, these efforts helped elect the largest incoming class of pro-life congresswomen in history. Thank you, Marjorie. Marjorie is the author of Life is Winning, Inside the Fight for Unborn Children and Their Mothers. In 2017, Marjorie was appointed to the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission. She is married to CURE's Governmental Affairs Director, Marty, who is one of the researchers and author of our report, The Impact of Abortion on the Black Community. And Marty and Marjorie have 5 wonderful children. Marjorie.
Wow, I am so moved, Ryan, by what you had to say, and it really reminds me about the beauty of the friendship of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, how they were united in the great human rights battles of their time. And that friendship was based on something deep. It crossed many divides, it crossed communities, but they were united in one thing, the affirmation of the human spirit and a dedication to, based on the founding principles of our Constitution and our Declaration, preserve them. Susan B. Anthony said of abortion in her, was printed in her own newspaper in their House editorial, the act of abortion will burden her conscience in life, it will burden her soul in the grave, but thrice guilty is the one who led her to the dreadful deed. I believe we know who is leading her to the dreadful deed. the ones who, frankly, are the most in need now, women who face unplanned pregnancies, women in minority communities outsized in relation to other communities, driving her to the dreadful deed that will burden her conscience in life and her soul in the grave. And thrice guilty, Planned Parenthood, you for driving her to that deed instead of digging deep into her creativity, her ability to rise above the occasion, her ability to reach out and receive love from her community. You've said that you'll take care of the problem, but what you did is something very different. What you did is you echo the words of your founder, Planned Parenthood's founder, Margaret Sanger, and calling the ones who are in most need human weeds. And saying that if the last one that is born in your family is a burden, the best thing you can do is to just get rid of them. This is not what the cure is about. This is not about what creative thinking is about. And I'd like anyone who is listening right now, whether you're in the media or anyone who sees this, to contrast the solutions of Star Parker's cure and the rest of my friends here to the solutions of Planned Parenthood when a woman really faces a difficult moment in her life. Planned Parenthood, eliminate the child. This crowd, bring love around her. Serve her and her mother. Serve him and his mother with all of the resources by unlocking the human potential in us and of allowing the unlocking of the human potential in that precious child. We are just a couple of days away from what I believe will be the last March for Life that will have Roe hanging over us. Yeah. I believe that in a very short period of time, June, late June, early July, under the Dobbs decision, where there will be asked one question: is any pre-viability abortion limit constitutional? We believe that the answer is yes, and we believe that the court will say yes, and this will lead to a complete destruction or dismantling of Roe versus Wade, which will mean that the consensus that we reflect here with my brothers and sisters across ethnicities will be allowed to make its way into the law, state by state by state, and we pray also on the federal level. What the other side has, again, in this awful contrast, this anti-life affirming contrast, with Planned Parenthood and the abortion lobby, as it sees the overturn of Roe versus Wade coming, is desperately trying to get chemical abortion pills into the mail before there's a decision, so that our sisters that are suffering and alone and need help get only one thing. They get a pill and a bathroom. That's it. In their misery and their grief, that's what they get. And then they get a dead child on top of that, and no way out. This is not love, but this, around me, is love to that woman. Then they also vociferously attack non-discrimination abortion limits. This is one of the reasons we see Dobbs, the Roe versus Wade decision being looked at, because non-discrimination abortion legislation, of course, is pre-viability. It doesn't say when it should be. It just says never a black child do you abort because it's a black child, or because he or she has a disability, or for any other discriminatory reason, or because she's sick or he's sick. So I would say here to listen to the contrast between the loving solutions of my brothers and sisters here and the death-dealing, life-undermining solutions of the other side as we move into a post-Roe world. And who do you want to be with? Even if you're not completely pro-life or completely on the other side, you can at least see the love and beauty of saving a child at 15 weeks and coming around that mother, or any other stage along the any other place along the continuum of life. So I want to thank you for having me here, sister, and I look forward to questions.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. Really appreciate you here. And I see one of our pastors has walked in, and he will close us out later in this presentation of our impact of abortion on the black community, release of our report, which is available on curepolicy.org. Next up is Jonathan Alexandre, a good friend, Senior Counsel for Government Affairs for Liberty Council Action, where he consults with and advises law and policy makers at the federal, state, and local levels across the nation. He's formerly Assistant General Counsel and Public Policy Coordinator for the Massachusetts Family Institute in Boston. Jonathan earned his Juris Doctorate degree from Liberty University School of Law. He's married to Renee Nicole, and they reside in Alexandre, Virginia. Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. You know, it seems that every 60 years or so, the culture and the courts comes out with a decision dictating to this nation a terrible error and a grave wrong. And no fault has been greater, no scourge has been more pronounced than the times that the Supreme Court has decreed an encouragement of slavery, a legal separate status between black and white, discriminating against race, and the ongoing sanctioning of the murder of innocent babies in the womb via abortion. More often than not, it's those who are on the fringes of society or the less than citizen who bears the brunt of these bad decrees. The Roe v. Wade decision did just that. It did it to black babies, and until abortion is properly dealt with and eradicated from our narrative, it will always be the blood-stained, damaging plague eroding and devastating our country's core value of life. Abortion infected our culture. It cursed our philosophy. It infested and then perverted our laws, and it has targeted the innocents among us. It has unleashed racist abortionists into black and brown communities, giving them, under the cover of so-called privacy rights, the ability to market and to sell and to coerce and to punish black Americans with abortion. The victims being brutally and repeatedly suffering under these regimes are the over 19 million black babies who could have otherwise been standing right here or holding the camera or sitting next to you watching this. Instead, their lives are being torn apart limb from limb by manipulative abortions. And I intentionally refer to the abortion industry as manipulative, coercive, damaging. It's a deliberately evil practice, and it must be stopped. That's why we are here today. About 2 months ago, there was an incredible image that took social media by a storm. There was a Nigerian medical student and an illustrator named Chindiabera Ibe. He drew this image of a distinctly black baby in the womb. And this image went viral as it struck a chord with many individuals on social media. And almost every witness to this image appreciated the rarity and the beauty of this image, a black baby in the womb. And we all can see this black baby in the womb and be moved by it. We can see this beautiful black face, such a beautiful black face. But when we see a beautiful black face, abortionists see a dollar sign. When we see a beautiful black face, abortionists see a way to make a profit by killing it. When we see a beautiful black face, the abortion industry manufactures a pill and then mails it to the mother in order to end this life. When we see a beautiful black face, they see a part of town where they can build an abortion center and find an area where they can lure in desperate mothers to terminate their pregnancies. You and I see a beautiful black face, but the abortion industry exploits the pandemic and makes chemical abortions more widely available on college campuses. When we see a beautiful black face, Planned Parenthood's founder says she wants to get rid of that undesirable race. When you and I see a beautiful black face, the abortion industry sees organs, hearts, lungs, livers that they can extract and procure during an abortion and then sell. When we see a beautiful black face, abortionists call black and brown babies weeds. We see a beautiful black face, but abortion sheds the blood of almost and over 250 of these babies every day. You and I see a beautiful black face, but abortion stops a beating heart, inflicts pain, drowns in poison, rips a baby limb from limb, and ends that life. Since Roe v. Wade became law, they've killed 19 million black babies. 19 million. When we see a beautiful black face, they see their next victim of a court and a culture which made abortion available. Keep your hands off beautiful black babies. We invite every person, those who are on the fence on this issue, even those who are active participants in the abortion industry, see this baby the way we see it. A beautiful black face, loved, and in need of protection under the law.
Oh, my. Yes, and the way God sees them. Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness, Jonathan. What a precious presentation. Pastor, if you would come and join us up here. But right now I'm going to have Angela Mentor, a friend, and president and co-founder of Sisters for Life. Oh, and Cure board member. She's the president and co-founder of Sisters for Life, a champion for preborn babies, their families, the sanctity of life. She has dedicated her life to awaken, train, and mobilize the whole church, particularly the historical black church, to end abortion in their communities. Angela resides in Louisville, Kentucky, with her high school sweetheart and husband of 35 years, Parnell Mentor, after losing 2 children through abortion, Summers Justice and Judah Starr. God bless them with 3 more outstanding children, Ryan Whitney, Parnell Obey, and Isaiah Jasper Mentor. Angela and Parnell live with gratitude for their 5 beautiful grandchildren, and they have just dedicated their life to not only end abortion, but be there. Sisters for Life has just launched 2 new programs. Be there for the entire communities. They now have Brothers for Life and Marriage for Life. Sister Angela.
Thank you, Star. We just celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Dr. Martin Luther King, the voice for justice, righteousness, and truth, and a movement that we know all so well. He stirred up the conscience of the nation and the world. And one of the things he said was, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. And I'm so grateful that STAR and CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, that we're not silent. Thank you, STAR. Thank you for being a voice. Thank you, CURE. But also, thank you for allowing me and our organization, Sisters for Life, as well, to come here and to actually walk out our mission. Our mission can be found in Proverbs 31, verse 8 and 9. Very familiar scripture because it talks about the Proverbs 31 mother. There's something to be said for mothers. But the scripture that I want to highlight, 8 and 9, says, open up your mouth for the speechless in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open up your mouth and judge righteously and plead the cause of the poor and the needy. Who is more poor, who is more needy than the preborn babies in the womb? Who needs a voice more than anyone else? You know, I wanted to highlight also that there's a proverb, or actually a African-American tribe, the Maasai tribe. The Maasai tribe, when they would greet one another, they wouldn't say, how are you doing today? Are you having a good day? No, they would say, are all the children well? Are all the children well? How are the children today? And interestingly enough, this tribe was a warrior tribe. And they would say, how are the children? Are the children well? Are all the children well? Well, I submit to you, when we think about the 20 million black babies of whom Planned Parenthood is the primary slayer of these children, we would have to say no, all the children are not well. When I think about the fact, and I just began to, just kind of read the report that came out, and tears came to my eyes. Disproportionately leading the consumer, black women, African American women, disproportionately leading consumer of abortion services for the African American female? That's not something that I want to lead. According to the U.S. Census Bureau and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Abortion Surveillance Report, black women make up 15% of the childbearing population in 2018, yet we obtained 33.6% of the abortions. Black women have the highest abortion ratio in the country, with 335 abortions per 1,000 live births. Are all the children well? Percentages of these levels illustrate that approximately 20 million black babies have been aborted since 1973. And according to the CDC, states the report, abortion ethnicities show that black women disproportionately lead in the numbers. All the children are not well. But not only that, all the mothers are not well. All the fathers are not well. All the grandparents are not well. I began to read, and this brought me to tears. In Mississippi, 72% of all abortions are obtained by black women. In Washington, D.C., where I've come here today with a broken foot to march for the sanctity of life. Somebody said, are you going to the march? Oh, yeah, I'm going to the march. Are you going to stay at the hotel? Oh, no, I'm marching. I'm marching for life. Washington, D.C., 55% of the abortions obtained on black women. In Michigan, 50%. In Alabama, 62%. And in my state, the Kentucky, that number is roughly the same. How would you know that, Angela? Because I do sidewalk counseling at the Planned Parenthood there. The Planned Parenthood that told me where to go to get my abortion. I do sidewalk counseling at another, the D.C Center, where 2 black doctors and 2 white doctors are killing innocent babies and praying and calling themselves health care for black women like me. Are all the children well? I submit to you, no, all the children are not well. And Planned Parenthood and their work is, like as Star said, insidious, but not only insidious, but as insidious and pernicious as the slave masters. I'm here to speak for the women. I'm here to speak for the preborn babies. I'm here to speak for the babies that were rescued, because my daughter, Ryan Whitney Mentor, would have been my 3rd baby that my husband and I would have killed through abortion, or allowed to be killed through abortion. But because someone betrayed my confidence, and I always say there's something to be said about betraying your confidence, betraying the confidence of someone when a life is at stake. I'm here to speak for these babies that have been rescued. I'm here to speak for myself, because it says in Michigan, 50% of those babies are aborted by black women. I was born in Michigan. My parents are from Harlan County, Eastern Kentucky, coal mining country. But I like to say I'm from the city. I was born in Detroit, and I lived there for all of 30 days. But I was set to be aborted. My father and my mother were told about an abortion doctor, back alley abortion doctor. My father was in law school. My mother was working to help to provide for the 2 children that they had already. And here comes Angela. Said, I can't have that abortion. I can't have that baby. So they went to the abortion doctor. But guess what? I survived. I would be considered a botched abortion, they say. I'm here to speak for all the babies that have survived. But I'm here to speak for the mothers. I'm here to speak for the fathers. I'm here to speak for the families. I'm here to speak for the church. God said, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is his reward. Angela, what would you say? You're here to speak for them. What would you say? I would say this is a new year, and this is a new day. And in the black community, Planned Parenthood will not continue to come into our communities and deceive, hoodwink, and bamboozle our race anymore. Not in the church, not outside the church. Because we're going to continue to do as Cure has been doing. We're going to come together as we're doing today. And we're going to cry loud and spare not. And we're going to let our families know, our women know, our fathers know, you're better than that. God loves you. He loves your baby. He's got a great plan and a great purpose. And we want to say, by faith, are all the children well? And we say, by faith, all the children are well.
Thank you. Wow, Angela, thank you. You're going to hear from Nico Carroll. You know, it's interesting, Angela, in her story, she said that her confidence was betrayed, and she didn't complete that thought, that it was betrayed because she went to someone that she thought would hold her confidence to get $20 to go kill the child, and instead they went and told her dad, and her dad called her at college and told her, don't do it. Don't you dare do that. And her beautiful, beautiful daughter would be here with us right now, but she's probably at some other pro-life meeting right now. She's just an amazing, amazing testimony in and of herself over there at Sisters for Life. Nico Carroll is a team member here at the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. And prior to him coming to CURE, Nico was a field coordinator for the Republican National Committee in Florida, his home state, and was part of the African American grassroots team as a regional engagement coordinator, and was named one of the RNC's 2020 Rising Stars. Nico was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. He attended Florida Atlantic University, where he received a bachelor's degree in communications and multimedia studies. Nico, please, let's hear a presentation about the impact of abortion on the Black community.
And I just want to say a quick thank you, Star, and all those that stand up here before us to stand up for what's right and for the life that is of the unborn. Abortion is a topic that's very polarizing, and it shouldn't be. We're talking about a life where the fetal heartbeat may first be detected by a vaginal ultrasound as early as 5.5 to 6 weeks after gestation. Many people would define this as when life begins. For argument's sake, I believe that rational thinking people can agree that where there's a beating heart that is well defined as a fetus, it is immoral to stop that beating heart, and it should be considered inhumane. If we were to be so carefree aborting any other species, it would be viewed as if we were annihilating that species. The reduction of the Black population through abortion has had catastrophic repercussions in the hierarchy of the Black and brown communities as it compares to other racial groups in America. Statistics have shown that Black women have the highest rate of abortions in the United States. And this is no surprise, when 79% of Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facilities are strategically located within walking distance of Black and Hispanic communities. Liberal policies and talking heads that promote the death of the unborn are not for the betterment of society, but is for the destruction of America's greatest resource, our children. We are witnessing a mass genocide of the American Black population, and the media and pro-choice advocacy groups masquerade the government's financial involvement of abortion as health care for women, when it's truly a facade, a lie to take advantage of those who are vulnerable, pushing a narrative that the life in the womb should be destroyed instead of first encouraging alternatives. Black celebrities and political leaders who advocate for abortion should be ashamed of themselves as well. These are the same individuals that promote that Black lives matter and on the other hand advocate for Black women to kill their babies. As a Black man, I've seen my race stagnate in size while other ethnic groups increase the size of their population. I would like to see a growth in the Black population, and that will begin when our people are not choosing abortion as a form of birth control. I would recommend that women and men who are considering abortion seek other alternatives. Most importantly, if abstinence is not an option, then preventative measures should be the option to prevent unwanted births. Considering that we have a lot of contraceptive information easily accessible, and many choices of contraceptives are also easily accessible to prevent unwanted pregnancies. Understandably, there are crimes of rape, incest, and the health and well-being of the mother. But the conscious decision to end a life for something that has been deemed a human being doesn't seem to be fitting in a moral and just society. There is an enlightenment in our nation, and it is vital that we protect our future. America's greatest resource is our children. We must invest, protect, and guide our next generation of leaders, scientists, doctors, lawyers, professors, and scholars if we are ever going to realize population growth in our Black communities. Thank you.
And our final speaker will be Pastor Nate Thomas. Pastor Thomas, thank you for joining us. I don't have your bio, so you will introduce yourself because I was surprised that you were joining us even though you were invited and didn't think you would be able to make it, but you did. Pastor Thomas is a part of our CURE Clergy Council and our association here in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
My name is Nathaniel Thomas. I'm pastor here in the local area. I just want to say that all that has already been shared and said, I ditto all of it. I want to say that we are in a situation now that we continuously talk about racism, but this is a racist movement, if you will, when we are targeted as an industry for abortion. There is an importance that we must be able to stand on the promises of God, because life is important and precious. And within our communities, for every child that is aborted, you may be aborting a great leader. You may be aborting a great teacher. You may be aborting a great physician. You may be aborting someone that otherwise we did not give them a chance. So therefore, they can't speak for themselves, but we can. And we ought to stand regardless to what your political affiliation may be. The reality is that we know that every child is important. And we need to stand behind the children that can't speak for themselves. So with that in mind, I want to also say that, going back to political persuasions, that this is not political, but this is people that we are talking about. These are lives that we are talking about. And even to our brothers, we must draw close to our sisters in terms of embellishing the love. If we're talking about love, we have to stand on love regardless, in terms of being able to show it, walk it, and live it. We say that we are children of God. And I just wonder, if Christ was here today, what would he say? I would think that he stood strong and even chastised his disciples when the children was trying to touch him. That we ought to be able to stand strong and rebuke anyone that tends to want to take away a life of an innocent child. Praise God.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you for reminding us of Christ. And, you know, I was thinking that if you said if Christ were alive today, my goodness, under today's environment, no telling, we would have been fighting for his life. He was his mother was 14 years old, and Joseph married her when she said, "I'm pregnant," as opposed to what we're seeing today in our community. You also reminded me of Steve Jobs and how if abortion were legal at that time, we would have probably been fighting over whether he would have been able to be born, and instead his mom just utilize a beautiful adoption, which is something that we should remind everyone is available for anyone that feels that they may not know what to do because they have found themselves in a position where they are pregnant. Maybe they didn't plan for to be pregnant. Maybe they continue to try to get away from getting pregnant. But once you're pregnant, you are now a mom, and you have a new decision to make. And that decision can also be adoption, which is what Steve Jobs' mom chose for him. And we have beautiful iPhones and other things as a result of that life. So all life is precious. All life has meaning. And what we want is, as one of our presenters said, is for abortion to end. It must end. So we're going to move into a post-abortion society. And there are many that are preparing for that. Our pregnancy care centers all across the country, thousands upon thousands of pregnancy care centers. We have people that are on college campuses now talking to young women about the beauty of marriage before they become sexually active. And we are in the high schools, everywhere, with all types of programs. So for those on the left that continue to say, well, you guys don't care, no, we care much more than you do, because all you do is promote death. We're going to end the press conference at this moment. If there are any questions, we welcome them from the media at this moment. Yes, sir.
In 2021, we reached over, or actually almost 43 million abortions globally. As we approach that number, and that is the leading cause of death globally in 2021, what is your message to Planned Parenthood?
Well, I want others to weigh in on this as well, but I think that Planned Parenthood has been a part of a crime against humanity internationally, as you're pointing out, Breitbart News, that that needs to stop, and perhaps this high crime should be judged in the courts. And thank you also for reminding us that although we're focused right now on the impact of abortion on the black community, because it has disproportionately hit the black community, and they're targeting the black community because they just really believe that these environmentalists and these eugenicists, and the one thing that they all have in common is that they just think that we're going to run out of resources, so they pick on the weakest first. But make no mistake, abortion has impacted all of our culture, all of our society, and when you think about the multiple millions that have been killed since 1973, we're looking at 63 million perhaps that would be 49 years old today with their own children, with their own families, and that would dissipate some of the crises that we're looking at right now, and housing problems, and family problems, and homeless problems, all of these other social ills that are as a result of abortion. So I would think that Planned Parenthood, after we finally get a right decision from the courts, after years and years of slavery, we finally ended it. When we end this, there perhaps will be some repercussions for those that this industry targeted and for those that they killed. Does anyone else want to address the question from Breitbart News? Yes, please.
You go ahead. No, you go.
Well, I would like to say two things. To Planned Parenthood, as I said in my statement, we're educating our community. And so regardless of what it looks like, we know that the mothers and the fathers, the families, the grandmothers, we know that they're going to, when they hear this information, and when they hear the love and the help and the resources that are available, as we continue to go into the churches and educate the pastors, go into our communities, our community centers, wherever people are, and educate them about the work of Planned Parenthood, they're going to have the same revelation that I had, because I went into a Planned Parenthood. I paid money for 2 of my babies to be killed. I bought the lie. I drank the Kool-Aid, and I thought the Planned Parenthood was a help. But what I needed was a pastor to tell me, let me educate you about what's happening. And so as a result of that, I am now the president of Sisters for Life. I'm on the board of Center for Urban Renewal and Education. And these are amazing positions to have. But greater than that, God sent me right down into the trenches to the EMW abortion mills and the Planned Parenthoods where they're killing these babies every day, to let the mothers and fathers know there's much help available, and God loves you and he loves your baby. So not only is that a message to Planned Parenthood, but that's a message to our families, all families, but in particular the black family, the black mothers, fathers, and their babies.
Marjorie, please.
I'd say to Planned Parenthood, the world is changing. So correct your founding wrongs or change your name and start shifting. But what you really should be doing is start to shift the funds and the services that you provide over to the life-affirming category. If you're not going to change your name, then work together with other organizations to affirm the lives of mothers and fathers and their children, without which there is no parenthood involved. All of your resources when a person is pregnant, almost all, 96%, come from abortion. You're an abortion-centered business, and you're called Planned Parenthood. So start helping women and children because the world is different, and we need the help.
To the point on the international numbers, one practical thing that we all can do. Every year there's a budget and an appropriations, and usually within the state and foreign operations there's a line item or money that's used towards funding abortion internationally. So that's U.S. state dollars going overseas, and they target African countries. And we've had many African leaders tell the United States, we'll appreciate your help when we can have it, but leave your abortion to yourself. Keep your abortion to yourself. Black countries in Jamaica, Haiti, Caribbean countries also are getting pressure from the United Nations to change their penal code to where they can now promulgate and have abortion available. A very practical thing that we can do. Anytime an appropriations comes up, push back against your senator, push back against your congressional representative, and tell them that you no longer want U.S. funds to fund abortion in these African and Caribbean nations.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to address that question? Yeah. Okay, one final question?
Yes, I see here in the report you are talking more about chemical abortions and what the Planned Parenthood's new tactics are in that regard. Could you explain what that is and how it says that they're using the pandemic as a way of actually pushing that further into college campuses and in the minority communities?
Well, thank you for that question, because this is a very serious place where those that are insidious, that are in the business to kill offspring, what God calls his reward. So because they know that Roe may die, they are moving into this new chemical environment to where no longer does a woman go into what's so-called a doctor to help her kill her offspring and then go and mourn by herself. She will have an abortion in her home. Someone mentioned earlier, it's a pill that they will take and have that abortion. They'll see it right there sitting in their toilet. And this is something we need to be very mindful of, because it's happening already. They're positioning themselves that even on college campuses, you'll be able to go to a vending machine and buy the thing that you need to kill your offspring. And then you're there alone, you're devastated, and we have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of women who are in deep mourning and deep regret coming in daily into our pregnancy care centers because they cannot handle this alone. So thank you for the question about the chemical abortion. This is where the industry is attempting to move. Marjorie, you may have more insight into that, but I tell you one thing that Marjorie does have. She says she's not going to enter into that particular question, and if someone else wants to answer, they can. But I tell you one way that we're going to end it all is we're going to continue to send pro-life people to Washington, D.C. to understand that abortion may be legal, but it's not lawful in God's eyes. And the same way that we as a nation had to end slavery, we must end abortion. It is a crime against humanity. Yes, please.
You know, I find it funny from the pro-abortion side, it's always talking about don't take us back, we won't go back, with all the hangers and all the myths about that. This is going back. What it is, they're introducing, you know, the back alley in a pill. We have communities, poor black communities, already ravaged by drugs, but now wanting to flood even more lethal drugs into the black community. This is nothing but more of the back alley. Planned Parenthood claims to be, you know, leading women's healthcare provider. They have dubbed themselves that, which is actually laughable, because when you talk about all the other services other than the crime of abortion, all the other services, major medical services to women, have been plummeting for over 10 years. But Planned Parenthood that has $2.3 billion in assets, needs to keep their profit margin up. And so this is just a profit margin action. People need to understand it and see it for what it is. It's nothing but putting vulnerable women in dangerous places, giving them these lethal drugs. And honestly, I mean, I didn't know that a toilet was a place for any human to die. So we're embracing a Kermit Gosnell way of disposing of unwanted, and I put that in quotes, and there's no such thing as an unwanted human being. But this is nothing but back alley in pill form.
Would anyone else want to comment on that particular question? Yeah, I'm glad that, Ryan, that you mentioned Kermit Gosnell, because how quickly we move away from remembering that Kermit Gosnell, after all of those abortions where they had to thaw babies out of, they had to thaw them out because they were in the freezer just to determine when they started life and when they ended life, that they actually brought a toilet into the hearing room when he was charged. They brought the garbage disposal in, and people wondering, why are these items in here? Is because limb by limb, part by part, there were so many parts that they didn't know what else to do with them, so they were flushing them down toilets and putting them in the garbage disposal. This is insidious, what we've allowed to happen in our wonderful country over the last 49 years, and we could see it in. Have mercy on us, Lord, for all the damage that has been done. We want to pray for the safety and protection of those women that are vulnerable and that are still in pain, and remind them that there are pregnancy care centers. Just Google it all, and you will find somebody that's willing to help you through this crisis, help you, help the male, help your family walk through this terrible, terrible time that we have been in. And we're so thankful that you would join us today with this presentation of our report, The Impact of Abortion on the Black Community. You can find that at curepolicy.org. And as we as a nation prepare to march for life, yet again, as Marjorie brought up, this could be the last march where we're actually trying to get rid of Roe v. Wade. So next year, as the hundreds of thousands come to Washington to declare once again that it's legal but it's not lawful in God's eyes, that we will be in celebration mode. Thank you for joining us at the Cure Policy press conference today.